Okay, another weird dream of like, kind of like a space station, I guess, but I don't really know if that's the right description of it. We definitely had gravity. It was super tall. It was like a mixture of a cathedral and a citadel. You know how cathedrals tend to be like long hallways, but at the end they're rounded near, what would you call it, like an altar? Um, but instead of altar, there was like this rounded area with 5 pillars that were also rounded, and like and it was huge. There was like it was almost the size of a gymnasium at the end of this long hallway. It was all white inside with like really interesting architecture, kind of rounded pillars with like kind of like rings on the pillar, and the walls, like I think there might have been like maybe um floor to ceiling windows on around the walls with like interesting trim that like made up the edge of the windows, and it was very like there's a lot of like circular themes. Again, like really weird all white material. Like I can't even describe what it was. I want to say marble or something, but I don't even know if it was stone. It could have been something else. And like there was this huge globe shaped garden. Like I do mean a 3D sphere shaped garden at the end with a spiral staircase wrapping around it that went high above this sphere up into the top parts of the like I almost just want to say like the top part of the cathedral thing, but like it went more up into like its own separate room. It wasn't the top of the cathedral. It was like a second floor almost, or higher levels of the building. And then like I'm gonna hopefully this is enough information for me to remember this so that way I could design this stuff someday. But really weird, like underneath it was this huge pool of water. Like I'm talking like right underneath the globe shaped garden. And by garden I mean it was mostly just flowers and stuff. It was like a vegetable garden, and there weren't really trees or anything. It was mostly just like kind of like flowers and stuff. And then there were really large pools. It reminds me of this place in Colorado called Casa Bonita, and like there's lots of pools of water in this like themed Mexican restaurant that's sort of what was around the base of like the pillars, or like these large pools of water. For some reason, there's a group of us, and I don't remember who else was in the group, but we were trying to get through one of these pools of water because you have to like this room is so gigantic. I guess there's artificial gravity or something. And like there is a floor, but like you can't cross the entire thing on the floor. Like if you want to get to certain parts of the citadel, you have to go through these pools of water, and they're really, really crystal clear blue pools of water, but they're super deep. And there was a little girl in our group, and she almost drowned trying to get through it. And it was like really anxiety provoking. Like she just slipped off of, we had like what was it? It was, I don't remember if it was like a raft. It was more like a canoe type of thing that we were trying, or it was either like a canoe or something like that, but it was attached to a rope, and we were pulling ourselves across. And she was sitting inside of it, but then she like slips out and starts sinking really fast, which was strange. And I like put out my feet, and I like grabbed her with my feet and like tried to pull her out of the water. So that was just super bizarre. I mean, she was small, like 4 or 5 years old, maybe some younger. That was anxiety provoking. And then that wasn't the only dream, but that was like the main dream. There was a lot of just like really beautiful rooms and architecture and stuff. And like looking up the windows, you could see like space and then like planets a little bit further, like away, like not in orbit, but like not super far, like far, like close enough that you could make out, kind of like you could see the cloud, not clouds, like, oh, there's individual clouds, but you could see like the atmosphere of the planet. It wasn't like super distant, whereas like you just saw a big ball of blue, but it wasn't so close either that I don't think we were in the well, we must have been, but it didn't really feel like we were caught in the gravity well of the planet. Like perhaps the gravity of the structure was strong enough by itself. Very weird. What am I missing? I'm missing something. There was other dreams in there too, but it wasn't as many as I've been having lately. It wasn't like 20 dreams in one go. I think there was just like maybe a few. And they were themed. As far as I remember, they were connected to this thing. Like it was more episodic, like a story, and they were more thematically connected to this thing. And I don't remember why we were even there. Like, what was our mission? I can't tell you. We were kind of just exploring, I guess, but it seemed like this place was built for a very important reason, like potentially religious significance, because I do keep saying cathedral, but it really wasn't like, maybe citadel is a better word, because it wasn't like just one large church building or something. It was more like a kind of a large segmented castle with lighting. Where in the heck was all this lighting coming? It was very bright inside, but I couldn't see candles, I couldn't see electric lighting, so I couldn't tell you how this place was being lit up. It was almost like the walls themselves were lights, and they were lighting up the place. I don't know if you've ever used a video game engine like Unity or Unreal, but you can actually do this thing where you turn walls or meshes or even furniture, anything you can think of, you can turn the mesh, like the 3D object itself, into a light. It was kind of like maybe maybe there was lighting that just came like luminescence, not so much lighting, but either like a really powerful bounce lighting off of the walls or just the walls themselves being illuminated. And because of that, it felt like there weren't shadows. Like I couldn't see any shadows anywhere, at least. Very weird one, like weird space cathedral thing. Definitely not the most pretty like space cathedral or cathedral themed building I've seen. I actually had a dream about another one. I don't know if you know Teal Swan. So she owns this company called Teal Eye, and this is a totally different dream. This was from years ago. I dreamt this basically sort of like, you know those Baha'i temples? It was like a Baha'i temple, but it was for Teal Swan. And like the windows were shaped like a spiral, but also an eye. And it was like massive floor to ceiling stained glass windows in the shape of like a nautilus. But in the middle, it was like, instead of it being a perfect circle, it was like, it was more like an eye shaped near the center. I don't even know if that makes sense. And you went inside, and it was really like a normal church in many ways, because there were pews or like benches of a sort, except that the altar, there was like an altar in the middle of the building, and like different what would you even call them? There's a term for this, but it's like the central hall where the pews would have been, were all facing the middle, instead of it being like facing the altar at the end of a long hall. You know what I'm saying? Like normally in churches, the altar's at one end of the building and the entrances are at the other, and you walk in and the pews are facing the altar. Well, in this case, there are other churches I've been to, and it's kind of like these, where it was sort of circular, and all of the different it's like there are all these different entrances, and they are all with pews. They're all facing the center point. There's like a central altar, and then there was a second level with balconies the um surrounding the like altars, like suspended from above, that could have like more like just normal seating, not so much pews, and they were looking down over the rest of the pews, and they also facing the central altar. And then there were like lots of chandeliers in this one for some reason, and it was much more colorful. I think it was made out of like a mixture of things like stone and wood. The floors, there was like tiles that were like, stained glass windows make a picture out of glass. Like I mentioned, well, the floor tiles were making a picture out of tiles. I don't remember what the exact picture was in this one, because the stream is from a long time ago, but there definitely was like themes, maybe animals or like just frequency painting type of things. She makes these pictures. And so is geometric shapes, like colorful rainbow geometric shapes, a lot of curves that just kind of direct your attention towards the center of this, temple. And then out on the outskirts of it, I guess, in certain chunks, there were like rooms. You know how like in I guess, I don't know if this is like this way in a lot of churches, but in Catholic churches, they have these things called cry rooms, where you take the babies that are crying so it doesn't annoy the people trying to go to church. And so these technically weren't cry rooms, but they were basically in the same location and about the same size. And I don't really know what they were. They almost seem more like confessionals, because they seemed a little bit more private and sealed off without glass to see the altar. So they were like maybe places that people could go to meditate by themselves and or have counseling one-on-one or something like this. But for the most part, the floor plan was really open with curved shapes and like arch ceilings and things like that. So yeah, weird. And then weirdly, I had another part of the stream was like at the end of this, I don't remember what was in the dream. I remember like kind of doing something and walking through this building and getting a look at it. I think I was by myself. There might have been other people there. But at the end of the dream, I remember like seeing Teal, which is not the first dream I've had of Teal, because I've had a crazy dream about Teal actually before. And maybe I could talk about it a little bit later after this, but anyway, so I was sitting there on a bench, and we were outside of this temple, and it was like really nice day, blue sky, sun in the sky, not very many clouds, and very green, like grass, not really a whole lot of trees or shrubs or anything around, maybe flowers, and maybe some trees in a forest in the far off distance, but like where we were sitting was just like a huge rolling green field of grass, and then maybe like pavement around us and on a bench, and we were sitting on the bench. I was sitting next to Teal. She was like, "You're gonna make this." I was like, excuse me. she's like, "Yeah, so you're the only one that can make this. You have to make this." And I was like, "I'm not an architect, miss. I am so sorry, but no, I don't think so." But she was just like, we'll see. So maybe I should try to make it so I can show you what it is. But I like I said, I'm not an architect. So if I did, it would not be very impressive. But it might actually just be worth trying to show and not tell. Because sometimes when I'm trying to tell my dreams, it doesn't really do it justice. I like miss the good stuff, and like it's challenging. So there's that. I could tell you the other dream I had about Teal. It was even longer time ago than that. It was around the first time I even heard of her. And I was using cannabis at the time, so I wasn't supposed to be dreaming. I hadn't had dreams in months or years, and probably more like just months, during the time that I'd been using cannabis. Of course, when I wasn't using cannabis, I was having normal dreams like I have been lately, where I have a dream every single day or multiple dreams every single night, which can get a little bit distracting. But like, she had this breakthrough dream where I like saw a party. She had like all these people invited over to this party, but like, you remember the Matrix 3, Matrix Revolutions, where they go into the coach, I guess it's just Trinity, and she walks in, and this time they like run around on the ceiling. Like, they jump upside down, they start running around on the ceiling. You're like, what the fuck, what the heck, like, why are they running around on the ceiling? Well, in this dream, Teal was on the ceiling, and everyone, and like, as soon as you walked in the room, you would start floating, and she would just be like smiling at everybody, and she'd like, and then you'd like float up into the ceiling, and like, it wasn't just everyone sitting upside down on the ceiling. It was like, and this is not an uncommon dream for me. I have another dream that I had that involved things being on the walls and on the ceiling, but it partially was true. It ended up coming true in the future. Not that things are on the ceiling, but other things in the dream. Anyway, off topic. And maybe we should talk about that one next. But I don't really remember. I think she had like, she looked like an alien, kind of like a mixture of a person. Like, she had the way she normally looks, but then she also had like alien features. Like, her eyes didn't look normal, her teeth didn't look normal, but most of her features look normal, I guess. And like, the room was just super interesting. A lot of her followers kind of look like a mixture of normal people and alien looking people, but not full aliens, just like partially. Like, it was kind of like features were coming through their human form in this particular state of consciousness, but it wasn't like they were fully embodying this alien consciousness. It was more just like, it was easier to express it here, if that makes sense. It was interesting. It was a little bit unnerving, but it was a party. Like, it was fun. People were enjoying it. People were flying. They were dancing through the air and just enjoying themselves. So that was really interesting. Now you want to hear about the dream of the future that came true. It was more like a dream of the present moment, I guess you could say, but part of it became extremely true in like detailed precision. Most of it was nonsense. Like, most of it was impossible, could never come true. So I have recorded this elsewhere, but I'll just share it here. So there was it was a 2-part dream. I was on a helicopter. I wanted to say a Black Hawk helicopter, but I don't think that's the case. I think it was smaller than that. And the sides were open, and there were there's a pilot and a co-pilot and a couple people in the back of the chopper, and I was in the chopper. And this helicopter was flying through a ravine with like forests around the side of the ravine, little waterfalls, lots of birds flying and stuff, but they were agitated, like they were flying away from danger. There was smoke in the mountains, and like down below there might have been like a river and stuff, but you couldn't really see. It was so thick in terms of like, it was just green canopy. And we're flying and we're weaving through this ravine, and it feels like we're being chased, but I couldn't tell you what we're being chased by. And it was weird because like, we saw a lot of inhabitants in this ravine, this gorge, and some of them were like not doing stuff. They were running away too, but others were like throwing spears at us. They were like semi-naked indigenous looking people, and they were throwing spears, and like, some of them actually damaged the helicopter bad enough that it started falling down out of the sky into this gorge. And like, so it was just scary. And like, in hindsight, this probably should have killed us, but we like bailed out of the helicopter, or at least I did, as it was reaching the ground, and I landed. Like, I don't know if anyone else did, but I couldn't see where anyone else landed. Like, we were separated at this point, and I landed like really far away from anyone else in this huge pile of mud that like broke the fall a little bit, and like, I splashed down and they're surrounded by all these trees. It's pretty colorful. There's like colorful flowers and fruits and different like tiny little animals, but they look like alien animals. Like I couldn't really tell you what kind of animals they were, but they're small. They kind of remind me of maybe bunny rabbits or something, but they did not look like bunnies. And mostly other like indigenous individuals running through this gorge, and like so I'm like climbing up out of this mud, and it's just kind of start walking. I think I'm like walking near this tree, or use this tree branch to kind of pull me out of this quicksand mud stuff pretty quickly. It wasn't that bad, but it was just like I needed something to help me up, and so I used that. And I was like walking kind of through, and like some of these families were like running past us, and like they were looking at me with suspicion, like fear and suspicion, and I was looking at them with fear and suspicion, like, well, where are we, what is going on, like I have no idea. And one of the little kids like ran up to me and gave me a hug, this little boy. I was like, and his mom was like, come on, let's go, and like she was afraid and like grabbed him, and like they kept running. I don't know why that happened, but it happened. It was odd. It was very weird. And then suddenly I woke up out of that dream into another dream. Now this is where the good stuff happened. So it's like, okay, that was jarring. And so as soon as I woke up out of that dream into another dream, I had this sense of like lucid dreaming, like, oh, so if I woke up out of that dream into this dream, then I'm dreaming. And I woke up into the room that I was sleeping in, even though I was still sleeping. So I was lucid dreaming in another dream. I actually, no. I didn't know at the time. I thought I was awake. So I woke up but I woke up, but I was inside another dream that looked exactly like my real life in my real room. And I could hear all these funny sounds coming from downstairs. And the time I was at, it was such a long time ago. I was in my early 20s, and I was in my parents' house. I was in my early 20s, 22, 23, I want to say, for some reason. But it could have been earlier too, but I don't remember exactly. And so, anyway, no, it might have been earlier than that, because we had this boxer. We had a dog, and it was a boxer, a brindle boxer. Anyway, so I heard scraping sounds from downstairs, and I get up out of my bed, and I go down the hall, out of my room, down the hallway, get to the top of the stairs. Now I heard something, but I don't remember what it was, because it's been a long time since I had this dream. And so anyway, I went downstairs, and the furniture was all bizarre. The furniture was all along the sides of, and we have like kind of a galley kitchen, and then a middle room like that. There's a back door, and then there's like a living room, and this middle room is sort of like a where we have a dining room, I guess you would say, but it was a smaller, typically an area with like a smaller table, maybe for 4 people. Like we had another one for a few more people. And like when I walk down the stairs and into the central room, all of the furniture's moved out of the middle of the out of the center of the room, and it's stuck to the walls. Like the chairs are sticking to the walls. Some of the chairs are stuck upside down to the ceiling. The table's like stuck sideways against the wall, and there is blood all over the floor, but not like a big pool of blood, just like footprints and like splotches of blood along the floor, and it goes like throughout the house. I thought, oh my gosh, this is really weird. And then I walk in to this like another room, and I see my mom, and she just turns to me and she's like, are you gonna clean that up? And I wake up out of the dream, and I was like, whoa, that's so weird. In real life this time. And it was like waking up though, and I was worried for a second I woke up in another dream, because I just had that secondary like wake up moment in my bed again for the second time. But I could tell I was really awake this time, and I heard vacuuming and music sounds from downstairs and scraping sounds from the dream. So I was like, oh, I was dreaming. Anyway, so I got up, I go downstairs, I see all the furniture is moved to the side of the middle room. And there's blood on the floor, and I'm really confused. And apparently, um, like, I guess like my mom's vacuuming, and there's the boxer, my dog, and he has been running around like a crazy boy with one of his nails broken, and his nail was causing the floor to be covered in blood and creating little doggy footprints and of kind of just like small amounts of blood wherever he was walking. And I walked in and I was like, Mom, the dog has been getting blood everywhere. And she's like, well, are you going to clean it up? So it was exact, and that was in real life. So that was the end. It was like really bizarre. I don't know if that was, so I don't know if that's dreaming the future, like partially, but it was more like dreaming the present moment. Like I feel like I was hearing stuff going on downstairs, but at the same time, that happened. Maybe I just knew my mom would say something like that, so I just dreamt it. I don't really know if that one counts as dreaming the future. I might have a better example of dreaming the future, but this video is getting a little bit long and I have to go and do something, so I will upload this and I will do another dream journal later.